Music brings people together. We are the Sixth Floor Trio, and we try to play music from as many different genres as possible.
We're classically trained.
But we have this theory that the language of music actually connects not only classical music, but folk music and musical styles from around the world and across time. This part of the world, Western North Carolina, is so quintessentially American, with its wonderful small towns and traditions of culture going back hundreds of years.
And what better place than the mountains of Western North Carolina to start out our folk music project? Here's the concept. We want to explore this area in Western North Carolina, connect the people and the culture with the music, and meet with the local band for a friendly challenge.
The idea is, can three classically trained musicians play in any folk style? Can we learn a folk style and somehow make it our own? It's a crazy idea.
Now, to see that, we've actually contacted a local folk band, bluegrass band, that we've heard is amazing, and we'll be up against them later today.
Come here for many reasons. One is we have very close friends that live here, and they wanted us to come down here. Dr. Ford Lawlerstedt and his wife Brenda Boozer, we've known for years, and Ford Lawlerstedt was one of our teachers at the Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, where we all studied. Of course, that's where our name comes from, because we lived on the 6th floor of a building just outside of Curtis. And Ford Lawlerstedt was kind of a musical mentor and a guru for us, because one of the things that he talked about in his teaching is that the tonal language of music is very powerful, and it's kind of created a meaning within the fabric of musical expression. And we kind of hit on this point and realized that that language is not unique to classical music. In fact, that it runs throughout so many styles of music from around the world and across literally thousands of years of time. And that's one of the kind of fundamental ideas that we have about music and what we want to do as a trio. What better place to do our first episode than here? It's perfect.
We knew that our classical training and our love for this area weren't enough. To understand this music, we had to dig deeper. We needed to get a sense of its unique style. Thankfully, bluegrass expert David Haney was willing to give us a few tips. As classical musicians, how can we make this music our own?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, you're on the right track because you're asking the question. And I've known classical musicians who, because they have such great technique, think that they can just play the notes. Mm-hmm. And as somebody said to me once, anybody can play the notes. You know, it's all about how you play the notes. And I guess one of the most important things that distinguishes real bluegrass, and I would say this to some young people who are very hot bluegrass pickers even, one of the pieces of advice is really listen to the timing. One of the basic things is what Del McCoury calls front beat guitar playing, which means that you hit the downbeat just a little bit ahead of the beat. You don't speed up, but you hit that beat on the front side of it. And it's very subtle, because if you do that too much, it sounds rushed, but if you do it just right, it gives it that bounce that bluegrass has. And another thing is to listen to the different timings that are put together. One of the things Larry Sparks said once, who's a great guitar player in bluegrass, that if you took each instrument and just cut out all the instruments and just heard one instrument, it would sound like it was playing out of time.
Wow.
But if you put them all together, it works.
Yeah.
So everybody's doing a little bit, and different bands have different versions of this, a little bit different, very subtle rhythmic thing. And
this is not something that classical musicians ever talk about. We always talk about playing it together.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this is why, this is why classical musicians have trouble with bluegrass sometimes, because you get 4 classical musicians playing bluegrass, it'll be exactly right. Everybody will be hitting the beat right in the middle.
But they're actually wrong.
But it's boring,
Yes.
you know, because it doesn't have that bluegrass bounce.
That's great. Well,
This
thanks.
is so fantastic. Thank you
Great.
for
Thanks.
your time.
Thanks
You have
very
no
much.
idea. This is just fantastic.
Yeah, well, I
Thank
really
you so
enjoyed
much.
it.
I
Thanks.
think it'll be helpful for
It's
us.
really going to be great.
It's really interesting that so many of these early folk instruments were homemade. People deep in the mountains with very limited resources would often choose to have musical instruments in their homes despite having very little furniture and living in these simple mountain cabins.
For generations, folk music brought people and families together in this region, and we realized that this beautiful setting inspired a simple, honest, but powerful American sound. In our research, we saw lots of interesting things, but we still weren't sure how to recreate the bluegrass sound with our instruments.
And also, I mean, we know with a piano and a clarinet, we're not going to get the true bluegrass sound.
Right,
It's going
right,
to be something different.
We're not going to sound like a banjo and a mandolin.
Exactly. We're trying to capture the essence of it and then let that inspire us.
In talking about our research, we discovered we had some differences of opinion.
People talked about in the early 20th century how the dialect and the ways of speaking of the people, and also in some ways maybe elements of the music, were quite similar to Elizabethan England. And that's the origins of a lot of the fiddling folk style, the real old-time genres of music that we experience up here in the Blue Ridge Mountains.
You know, you can't tie this stuff down. You know, it's always evolving. You know, and like what we call bluegrass music is not what, you know, what was going on in the 19th century. It's a very different thing. He said that the link between authenticity and isolation is just it's a falsehood.
Well, I'm so interested in the origins of this stuff. I think that's
I
critical.
just think it's so great to be here on location.
What I'm saying is that's the music that we're playing. We're not playing music from the 19th century.
Sure, but you know what? That's the origin. I find that fascinating. In the same way that when we study classical music, we're looking at where did the music originally come from? Where did our modern sense come from? It's obviously an amalgam.
So some place that doesn't really matter.
Well, it's an amalgam of many things, and I think actually it does matter. I think it is worth discovering where the things in our head and in our ears
Discovering, yes,
come
but
from.
not creating. And that's what I'm saying.
And
We
we're
need
not
to
trying to
avoid.
create.
We need to avoid creating connections, historical connections that don't exist. So do you have
To
a
the 20th
romantic
century.
notion of this whole entire thing, which I think is, well, let's do the research and then we'll figure it out.
The discussion did not end there, but we did all agree on one thing. The next step in the process was to meet a genuine bluegrass band born and raised in the Blue Ridge Mountains of western North Carolina.
It was so great to meet the Johnson Brothers Band. Not only did they sound incredible, but when we talked with them about music, they had a lot to say.
But I listen to all kinds of music. I love all kinds of music. I mean, everything I play will be flavored by bluegrass because that's what I started with. But you know, I love jazz. I love everything.
Like Jason, like all kinds of music. If it's grooving, I dig it.
It even got a little philosophical when we asked what music meant to them.
For me, it's all about emotion. You know, if you hear something that moves you enough to, like, I listen to stuff and just cry. So to me, it's all about listening to music that moves you emotionally.
It's definitely about the emotion. I totally agree with that.
Then we got personal. Where does the bluegrass spirit come from?
It's something that people don't understand. You don't learn bluegrass, which is what we're doing. You don't just learn it in a couple weeks. As Ralph Stanley would say, it's borned into. And that's true. That's a true statement.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what we've grown up doing
That's
all our
much
life.
of our heritage
We've all
here,
been
too.
playing all our life.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's your heritage.
it's a heritage.
Was developed more out of hardship,
Yeah.
probably than it's kind of like the blues, and the blues heavily influenced it. I mean, Bill Monroe stole a lot of stuff from the black community that was loading riverboats, on the docks and along the Ohio River and stuff, and that influenced it a lot. And I agree completely. If it doesn't have any emotion, or if it doesn't, you don't feel like you need to be doing it. It's pretty much noise at that point. It doesn't matter what the genre is.
Finally, we asked them for some specific tips on understanding the bluegrass style. They took it even one step further than Professor Haney.
Yeah, I mean, in this music, not everything is, you know, metronomic time. A lot of it, it's like a lot of pushing and pulling, but it's...
Is it pushing and pulling together, or do you feel like
it
you
is
play
pushing and
different
pulling together?
functions?
Yeah, it is. I think it's, you know, pushing and pulling together, but there's not like a metronome going ba 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 ba, you know.
But you have to have your backbone.
Right.
And you're playing against that.
So this is what we've got.
Enthusiasm, a will to learn,
And hopefully some talent.
We already love playing in lots of different styles.
And we have a pretty good arsenal of instruments to work with. I play clarinet,
I play bassoon and violin.
And I play clarinet and piano.
so we'll have to see what we can do with that.
Before we knew it, the time for the main event had come. Two very different bands, the Johnson Brothers and the Sixth Floor Trio, going up against each other on the Bluegrass Band's home turf.
Now that we've heard both groups playing, I think it's only right that we maybe play something together, play a little something together.
Sure.
What do you guys think?
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
against the best, and we learned a lot. What's the outcome of the challenge? We'll leave that up to you.
Between what anyone was doing, it sounded like, that we were all just kind of approaching it in the same manner. Interesting. I didn't hear, any kind of walls there. We were all just trying to, feed the tune.
Interesting.
So maybe we've been successful.
All right. All right. I didn't hear any walls, so that was good, I think.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you know what? It's been so much fun. This has been a tremendous pleasure for us. And getting to hear you guys play, and then getting to play with you guys, that is fantastic. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And this may not be politically correct, but have a beer.
Thanks so much.
If you want.
Well, there you have it. That was such a thrill. What a great experience.
Yes, man. We held our own against some of the best, and they said there are no walls between us.
I think that's pretty good.
We couldn't ask for any more. And honestly, this has been such a thrill for us. And this is just the first part of something that we hope will be much bigger. We want to find folk music everywhere and do the same thing. Try and learn it, have an experience with it, and make it our own. And that will be so wonderful and exciting for us, and we hope that you can join us on that journey.